Thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to this three-part presentation on my feedback project at Rockingham General Hospital Emergency Department. Part 1 aims to give some background to the project and communicate the results from the recent staff feedback survey. Part 2 will introduce the feedback tool I've designed and the plan for its trial run over the next few weeks. Part 3 is a summary of effective feedback technique and an introduction to the concept of feedback literacy. So to begin, the most up-to-date definition of feedback in education is a process in which learners make sense of information about their performance and use it to enhance the quality of their work. Feedback has long been established as one of the most fundamental components of development, but its effectiveness and frequency is highly variable due to the complex issues involved in its delivery. John Hattie, in his key 2009 paper, states that the most powerful single influence of achievement is feedback, but its impacts are highly variable, which indicate the complexity of maximising its benefit. Boyd and Malloy, leading Australian education researchers, wrote in 2013 that feedback processes are commonly misunderstood, difficult to carry out effectively, and do not fulfil their aspiration of significantly influencing learning. But despite this, other industries have a well-established peer feedback culture and a structure which makes feedback part of their daily practice. This is shown to be highly effective in professional training and development. The multinational business consulting group McKinsey & Co. have spent millions of dollars developing their own feedback system and now boast one of the most sought-after internships in their field due to the training that their employees receive. Frequent formative feedback has been shown to be more useful for learners than end-of-term summative assessments. I wondered if there was a lost opportunity in our workplace for professional development due to the lack of an established feedback culture. Are we missing out? Could there be potential benefits of increased job satisfaction, improved patient care, and even of improved departmental function? Why is feedback in our profession so different to others? Is the old-fashioned no news is good news ethos good enough? Feedback in education and in other professional workplaces has been extensively researched, and common barriers to its effectiveness have been identified. In summary, these are that learners often complain they don't get enough feedback, and time and service pressures can get in the way. It can be a confronting experience on both sides, and previous unhelpful experiences of poorly delivered feedback can lead to reduced engagement. Educators complain that learners take little notice of their feedback anyway, and there is a lack of common understanding about what effective feedback is. But do these same issues identified in research translate to the emergency department environment? The survey that many of you kindly participated in was designed to study the barriers specifically to our workplace. We had a total of 27 responses, 12 consultants, 11 registrars, and 4 nurse practitioners. The next few slides illustrate the results. The results are presented in graph form. 5 on the right-hand side reflect strong agreement with the statement, while 1 on the left-hand side reflects strong disagreement. The white blocks represent the average response for that question. Consultant responses are in red, green for the registrars, and purple for the nurse practitioners, reflecting our scrub uniform colours. We see here that consultants are more confident in their approach to giving feedback than the registrars and the nurse practitioners, but consultants are less concerned or aware about the barriers to its effectiveness. In regard to receiving feedback, there is a broad variation of responses, but in general, we feel happier with receiving feedback than giving it. With regard to frequency, consultants give the most frequent feedback but receive the least, while nurse practitioners give the least frequent feedback but receive the most. There was consensus in strong agreement that we all wanted to improve how we give and receive feedback. The survey then gathered descriptions of personal feedback experiences and opinions about the nature of barriers to effective feedback in our emergency department and how these could be overcome. I've generated word clouds from these responses, showing the most frequent opinions in a large font. Our personal descriptions of helpful feedback experiences were reflective of those described in literature. Feedback which includes recommendations, is specific, and encourages reflection were all cited frequently. Our descriptions of unhelpful experiences were also reflective of those in literature. The most frequently mentioned aspects of these experiences involve public feedback of especially negative or critical comments, and feedback which was non-specific, whether or not that was in general positive or negative in nature. In regard to the barriers of effective feedback in our department, there were common themes of ego and time, training and confidence. Hierarchy was mentioned frequently, especially when trying to feed back to more senior colleagues. So what solutions did we suggest? Suggestions centred around education and training in the structure of feedback in order to increase our confidence in its delivery and in receiving it. Increasing the frequency of feedback encounters was also suggested to encourage it to become more routine and help with a culture shift. Some really insightful comments came from these responses. These include, if consultants could lead by example and seek feedback from more junior colleagues, this would go some way to addressing the barriers of hierarchy. There's not one solution that will remove all barriers to effective feedback. We must be adaptive. Written observations are helpful, then more meaningful verbal discussion can come from this initial platform. There should be accountability for being proficient in feedback, just like there is an expectation that we are competent in other skills in the emergency department. I recognise that this is an extremely complex issue with highly varied opinions. In the next part, I introduce a feedback tool designed to address some of the issues raised here.